Welcome to the Pharmacy Future Leaders Podcast with your host, Tony Guerra. The Pharmacy Future Leaders is part of the Pharmacy Podcast Network, focusing on pharmacy student perspectives, interviews, and the future outlook of our pharmacy industry.
Welcome to the Pharmacy Podcast Network. I'm your co-host, Tony Guerra, for the Pharmacy Future Leaders Podcast, broadcasting from the Des Moines Health and Public Services Building in DMAC's Ankeny campus. Connect with me on Facebook at Tony PharmD1, where you can find over 1,200 pharmacy videos supporting my audiobook, Memorizing Pharmacology, on YouTube's Tony PharmD. Today we actually have something really cool, which is Maria Sybil, a P4 student with me, who's on her APPE academic rotation, is going to be interviewing Jessica Nesheim, who is the program director of a PGY2 Emergency Medicine Pharmacy Residency. So I'm going to let them take it away, and I hope you enjoy.
Hi, this is Jessica Nesheim. I'm the Emergency Medicine Clinical Pharmacy Specialist at Mercy Medical Center in Des Moines, and you're listening to the Pharmacy Podcast.
Hi, I'm Maria Sybil, fourth-year pharmacy student at Creighton University, and today I am interviewing Dr. Jessica Nesheim. Dr. Nesheim is an emergency medicine clinical pharmacy specialist at Mercy Medical Center in Des Moines. She graduated from Drake University a PharmD in 2009 and completed a PGY1 Pharmacy Practice Residency at Mercy Medical Center, Des Moines in 2010. She is a board-certified pharmacotherapy specialist, the primary preceptor for PGY1 residents on required emergency medicine learning experience, and a preceptor and program director for the Emergency Medicine PGY2 residency program at Mercy, now in its second year. Welcome to the Pharmacy Podcast.
Thanks, Maria. And going forward, you can just call me Jess if you want.
Okay. Jess, everyone's leadership road is a little different. Tell us what you are doing now and how you got there.
Okay, so right now I am, like I said, the clinical pharmacy specialist at Mercy Medical Center in Des Moines. That entails a lot of different elements. I do quite a bit of staffing still in the emergency department, but then on top of that, I have several other clinical responsibilities for developing clinical practice within the emergency medicine realm. So that includes order set and protocol development, interdisciplinary committee involvement, along with MUEs, collaborative practice agreement development, and many other aspects. So that, and then also, as you mentioned, I am the PGY2 residency program director for our new emergency medicine residency program. So that involves quite a bit of different things. I got here in a pretty direct route, I would say. I got my first introduction to emergency medicine as a fourth-year pharmacy student, actually, after attending the ASHP mid-year meeting. I had attended a roundtable discussion and just happened to wander through and sat down at a table where Daniel Hayes was speaking about emergency medicine pharmacy. And that really was my first introduction. I'd never heard of emergency medicine pharmacists before or had any idea what that job entailed. So that was my first introduction, and moving forward, I knew I wanted to complete a pharmacy residency, and so I just looked for programs that offered some kind of an experience in the emergency room. I didn't know that's necessarily where I wanted to practice, but I just wanted some additional exposure. So that kind of set my trajectory on residency program searches, and through that, I did interviews. Unfortunately, I did not match when I went through the residency program match, but I think it worked out for the best because I did end up landing a position as a resident at Mercy Medical Center in Des Moines. They didn't currently have any experiences in the emergency department, but during my residency year, we opened our sister hospital here in Des Moines on our west side of town, which is Mercy West Lakes Pharmacy. And the new clinical coordinator at that site was tasked with exploring and trying to pilot a program within the emergency department. And so as a resident, I was given the opportunity to help assist with that. And through our involvement and data collection, we were able to obtain approval for 2 FTEs, or 2 full-time positions in our emergency department at our main campus. So I was offered one of those positions, so I decided to forego PGY2 training and actually just jumped headfirst into the ED and have been doing it and loving it ever since.
Oh, great. So somebody who is thinking about specializing in a PGY2 then, how do they keep both an eye on the specialty they're working towards and still stay true to the foundational nature of PGY1?
That's a great question. I think sometimes first-year residents can maybe get lost or maybe lose sight of what the ultimate goal of the PGY1 residency is, and that really is to build a strong foundation in all of those core areas, because those can be used in no matter what specialty, and you're going to have to recall that knowledge. But there are some ways to kind of leverage that PGY1 experience if you know you're going to go into or you want to pursue a specialty. I think trying to have your research project focus in on that area that you want to specialize in, that always speaks volumes when you go to interview at programs if they know that you've already done some research in that area. It also, again, shows your level of commitment to that specialty. I think you can maximize your elective opportunities as well, not just to repeat that area as a learning experience, but maybe to find areas that would complement that. So for emergency medicine, the ones that I try to encourage our PGY1s, if they want to pursue emergency medicine, would be to consider something in pain management or psych, because those are huge elements of the emergency department. And so I think that just increases your level of comfort in those kind of subspecialty areas.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and then the other thing, I guess, along with that would just to be keep open. You never really know. You might go in to your PGY1 or find something that you have a major interest in, but you never know when the tides may turn or you stumble upon something else you never even considered before.
Yeah. So many of our listeners are going to mid-year in December. When you went, did you focus specifically then on the PGY1 at that meeting, or were you looking at both PGY1s and PGY2s?
I really did just focus in on the PGY1s, but I kind of had the PGY2s in the back of my mind, not necessarily looking at those programs, but using that as an indicator of a strong program in that area. So if a PGY1 program that you're interested in also has a PGY2 in that area or offers a required learning experience, then you can be pretty sure that it's going to have some strong components. Some programs have PGY2s. They may offer early commitment, but that's not all programs, and it's definitely not ever a guarantee. So I would never want to set all of my expectations for a PGY1 that you're going to get a PGY2 and stay with that program. But you can definitely kind of weigh that into your considerations for the programs you're interested in.
Do you have an early commitment option for your program?
We do. We actually created a policy for both our PGY2 in emergency medicine and infectious disease. And so that is something that would be a potential here.
Oh, great. What you were saying that you didn't know as you were going into it at mid-year exactly what an emergency medicine pharmacist does. What are one or two things that we don't know about emergency medicine pharmacy practice that could help us understand what a day-to-day basis is like?
I would say that it's kind of to be expected, but within the emergency department, it's totally unpredictable. You never know what your day is going to be like. No 2 days are ever the same, which I particularly enjoy. It's very hands-on. I wouldn't say that's true to every emergency medicine program. There's definitely a variability in our area of practice right now because it is so new. But for me, we are practicing at the bedside. We are just a member of the team. We're looked at as equals with our respiratory therapists, with our nurses, with our technicians. We're all at the bedside together trying to take the best care of the patient that we can. Also, I would say that there are things that I have seen and smelled being in the ED that I never would have ever imagined I would have had exposure to going through pharmacy school. So it's a different world, I would say, but it's definitely exciting, and it's just very gratifying to work side by side with the physicians.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I imagine you have a lot of challenging days in the emergency department, but what was one of the most challenging days you had as a pharmacy resident?
I would say it probably didn't occur. There were definitely challenging times during residency, but for me, probably my most challenging day would have been immediately following residency. So as I said, I forego PGY2 training because we were able to start up a practice of our own and really set the course for what we wanted our practice to look like. So I wrapped up my PGY1 training. I took a week of vacation, and then I jumped in head first, and I did 7 on, 7 off. So I worked 7 straight days. So during that first 7-day stretch, I saw and was involved in so many more things than I had in my entire PGY1 experience combined. And like I had said, I had spent some time within the emergency department during that training, but it was at a smaller hospital with less acuity. And so being thrust into a trauma center with CPRs and resuscitations, and again, the nurses at that time didn't really know what to expect of us. And so we were trying to really show and prove ourselves that we were a member of the team. But I would say that first Saturday night, with the number of traumas that we saw and resuscitations, I just felt kind of like a fish out of water and definitely in over my head. And that first probably 6 months to a year was an extremely steep learning curve, even after having completed a residency already.
Yeah, I can imagine. With an emergency, as an emergency pharmacist, then do you mostly work evenings and nights, or is it 24/7?
We are not yet 24/7. That's definitely a goal of ours. We have expanded hours, though, and so there are some day shifts. But when we started out, we were primarily evening hours, so trying to cover the peak volume times of our emergency department.
Yeah. So you did talk a little bit about creating the PGY2 residency program in emergency medicine. Would you say you went about it as far as making sure you get accredited and kind of the paperwork part of the process, I should say?
There definitely is a lot of paperwork. When I first went out trying to get approval for starting up our residency program, really getting the buy-in of our administration here was a huge element. So I put together a business proposal showing really the value and the benefit of having a PGY2 in the area. I did attend the ASHP, the Residency Program Design and Conduct Workshop, which I felt was a huge advantage. It really walks you through the whole process of developing a residency program. And because the leaders of that workshop were accreditors, they were the people that went and did the site visits, they gave you kind of an inside look of what they were going to be looking at when they came for your accreditation visit, and really kind of give you some of those tips and tricks on making the best program possible. So that was a lot of it. And then really just working through developing the structure, lots of conversations with our other preceptors that we're going to be working within the emergency department and with the resident to develop learning experiences and kind of set that framework. So I reached out to several other programs as well, trying to get ideas for what other people have had success with and tried to base it off of that. And then really ASHP's website does a pretty good job of kind of walking you through all the requirements for the accreditation process. So,
okay. Now, once you did get a resident, in there, what's the kind of the day-to-day as far as the resident in your PGY2 residency program? Or the year, I should say, because you probably do rotations between different departments too.
Yes, yep. So they have a set of required learning experiences similar to a PGY1. And so we meet at the beginning of the year and really kind of make their customized residency development plan, figure out what their goals are for the residency year, where they want to end up when they're finished, and really try and set them up for success throughout the residency year. So they work through their different learning experiences, trying to check off all those goals and objectives that we set out and that are set out by ASHP for an emergency medicine resident. They have time to work on topic discussions, and they develop journal clubs and case presentations, lead education within the emergency department for our nurses and physicians, work on their research project. So there's a lot of different elements to kind of fit in there, but I think it's working pretty well.
Yeah. So often getting a residency is more about the right fit than the applicant with the most impressive CV. What are some of the characteristics of a student that would be a good fit for an emergency medicine residency?
I would say the biggest one is self-motivated, eager to learn, and just willing to be pushed outside of their comfort zone. And I would say that holds true for pretty much any residency program. You really have to be willing to just put it all out there, dive in, and really just kind of immerse yourself. And everything that you're going to encounter is a potential learning opportunity. So really just embrace it as that. Don't take anything for granted, because that year will be done before you realize it.
Yeah, I bet you learn a lot during that, both those years if you do two of them. And so you sound like you are fairly busy and you have a lot of stressors and you work. How do you separate work and your home life?
My strategy that I try to apply and adhere to is to try and leave work at work. So even if it means staying an extra half an hour late to tie up some loose ends or wrap up a project or something that I've been working on, I feel that I'm able to set it down then at the end of the day and just kind of leave it until I get there the next day to start working or to go into that next shift. So that's what I try to adhere to. My husband might not totally agree with that I adhere to that all the time, but
that's your goal, right?
Yes.
So what most excites you about pharmacy in today's world?
Well, it is Pharmacy Week, so I just want to wish everybody a happy Pharmacy Week out there. But I would say what excites me the most, especially in this area of practice, is that it is still new. Emergency medicine is still evolving, and there is no one job description that fits everybody. So really knowing that we can continue to advance practice and really set the stage for what future emergency medicine pharmacists will be doing is really exciting, because there are no two practices that are exactly alike. It kind of has a huge spectrum versus sitting and doing order entry within the emergency department to really being that hands-on consultant at the bedside and kind of anywhere in between. So I just think it's really fun.
Yeah, I think it sounds really, really interesting too. Is there anything else you would like to share that we haven't covered about your program?
Not specifically about our program. I know we have been talking a lot about residency, so I think one thing just to put out there, it is a known fact that there aren't enough programs to go around, which is unfortunate. And I think the number of programs are increasing every year, but still the number of applicants that are highly qualified that don't get residency is kind of frightening, I think, for students that are wanting to pursue this. So I would say even if you don't get a residency, it's not the end of the road. Just don't give up on your goals, and it might take a different route to get there than you originally thought you might take. But again, look for those mentors and reach out to people as resources. And if you really want to pursue a certain objective or a career path, then keep at it, and I think it can happen.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. Just at the end, then I just wanted to kind of go over a couple of quick questions. What's your best daily ritual to keep you on track at work, so that you can leave work at work and have your home life, right?
Yes. I definitely still use to-do lists on a daily basis, whether it's within the emergency department. So if I get a phone call and then I get 3 other interruptions in between, I try and just jot down what it was I was maybe working on before I got called into a trauma, so that I can come back and finish that up or return a phone call to an outpatient pharmacy that needed a clarification. And then with my clinical obligations too, really just try and keep track of what's all going on and then prioritize based on deadline, what really is most important to me and what I'm trying to get done, and then how long it will take. And for me, I am terrible at estimating how much time things will take. So I usually take that initial estimate and double it.
What inspires you?
Really, I would say it's the staff and the clinicians that I get the opportunity to work with every day. We have a ton of really bright, motivated physicians, nurses, respiratory therapists, intensivists, kind of everything. And so just getting to see the work that they do. I always like the quote that if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And so I just like that I get to go and be around these other really smart, motivated people that are really trying to advance practice. And I get to learn something every day still.
Yeah. Well, Jess, thank you so much for being on our pharmacy podcast. And have a great pharmacy week.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks for listening to the Pharmacy Future Leaders Podcast with your host, Tony Guerra. Be sure to share the show with the hashtag Pharmacy Future Leaders.